afternoon. Happy Pesach, almost.
Almost.
Welcome to the Jeff and the Rabbi.
Yeah.
I tell you. Well, I was thinking, I knew we were going to have a Passover show. I knew we were going to have it. And then when you told me the topic of Passover, I got to admit I was a little taken aback. I don't get taken aback that often. Taken aback. You see behind it, Rabbi Friedman's big Passover sermon almost. He wants to talk about Chometz. He wants to talk about
the
big break. He wants to talk about Chometz. There's nothing else going on in the world for the Jews right now. Let's see. We got a situation where our worst enemy, the enemy Iran, who swears they want to slaughter every Jew in Israel, is now meeting up with our supposed best ally to make a deal to where our worst enemy can get nuclear weapons. And here's how we're going to do it. We got a situation there. We got a situation now. I think just recently, Iran and Hamas have been taken off the terrorist watch list at U.S. Nothing big there, but we want to talk about Chometz.
Right.
We got another situation. Let's see. If you're a Jew today on a leftist college campus, you can't even walk across the campus without being harassed. But Chometz is important. I guess that's important too. Right before Passover, a couple months before Passover, Jews get murdered in a kosher supermarket in Paris. And the president of the United States says, no, they were just random people who got killed. Everybody shops at kosher stores these days. Everybody eats at kosher stores.
Happened to be the first one they walked into.
It's a coincidence. No problems in the world today for the Jews. I mean, everything's going well. I mean, we have a situation where the president of the United States said he learned everything he knew about the Middle East from Rashid Khalidi, a guy whose job it was to kill Jews at the PLO. But we want to talk about Chometz. So I'm thinking that maybe there's something to this Chometz, because I would have thought our Passover sermon could have been more poignant and to the point of what the problem with the Jews are today.
That's pretty heavy, all that
That's
stuff.
Heavy. That's
and
heavy.
I want you to know, and we don't shy away from the heavy stuff. That's what all our viewers have come to expect, that we tackle the heavy-duty issues head on. But I want you to know something also, that we have a heart here too. We have a heart. And I want you to know that, like, sometimes when something special happens, we stop and we pay attention to it. Now, I happen to be sitting next to a very special guy, because he's the only person that annually gets one day a year, he gets a year younger.
I do.
And this happens to be Jeff's birthday.
Yes.
So for Jeff's birthday, I want you to know we got our hats. We got to put on our hats.
This is exciting. I didn't know this was coming here. This is very exciting.
Let's go. Let's put on our hats. And we're going to wish Jeff a happy birthday.
Wow, that's exciting right there.
There you go.
That's exciting. You only turned 33 twice.
Yeah, that's right. When I originally met Jeff, he was like, it was going to be about 40, but, he's been just shrinking ever since then.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Very excited. I'm very excited for the show today.
Yeah, it's special. It's special. We got a heart. So it's all this heavy stuff, but you want to know, we got a heart.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay. This is
good. Well, that's it. Now let's eat some Chometz. I don't have any Chometz birthday cake. I wish I did.
Can I keep the hat on, or do I have to take
you should, because you're the birthday boy. Yeah. That's very special. Right.
I feel
go out and tell all the people in the office and all that. I'm sure.
I'm very excited now.
Yeah. So now you want to talk Chometz. Like birthday cakes, those are Chometz, right?
Chometz, Chometz. I know that's important, people. Just sit back. Don't worry about anything else in the world. Rabbi Friedman's going to discuss Chometz. Maybe cleaning out your pantry, because that's probably the most important thing you have to do.
That's right.
Now.
Cleaning your pantry. That's what I call March Madness.
Yes,
to me, that's Jewish March Madness. As the Jews go bonkers and crazy, especially if you get into Orthodox neighborhoods, crazy over Chometz, getting rid of the Chometz, and buying kosher for Passover stuff. So, like, what is it? What is this Chometz stuff that everyone's purging and getting rid of? Why is everyone so hung up about it?
That's a good question.
That is the question we have to tackle. So first of all, what is Chometz? What is Chometz?
Wait, do you mind if I take that? Because people don't take me seriously with the hat on. They usually take me so serious. So you mind if I take that?
Okay, you can take it off.
Because people take. I don't want to have a chance of somebody not taking me serious.
Just remember, on the cards and letters, just reply. You can reply to the Jeff's birthday show.
Yes. Okay.
The special birthday edition of the show. Yes. So here we are. We've got Passover coming up 1 week from Friday night. Okay, and at this point, by the time that happens, by Friday afternoon, a week from Friday afternoon, every Jew is supposed to have purged from his house all Chometz. Chometz means leaven. What is leaven? Leaven is what happens when you put water and flour together.
Right.
Okay? What happens is you pour water into flour, and if you just leave it and don't do anything with it, you mix it up and just leave it there, it'll rise, and that's called leavening, the leavening process. Okay? So it'll make bread, and you can bake it, you make bread or whatever it is, but it'll leaven, the dough will rise. There's actually a whole chemical explanation to that. What's happening is that there's a chemical breakdown, and it's releasing carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide gets trapped inside the glutinous stuff, so it just makes more of this gas, and the gas like pumps the thing up.
So pretty much global warming.
Yeah, right. So that's why it's got all those little gas bubbles. When you slice a piece of bread, you see all the little holes in there.
Right.
That makes all the bubbles. So Chometz is what happens when you just mix the flour and the water together and leave it, and it leavens.
Right.
We're not supposed to have any leavened products. We can still eat products made from wheat flour or other grain flours, but we have to make sure that they don't leaven. And in order to make sure they don't leaven, you've got to either work them, knead them a lot, roll them and all that so that the gas can't build up and it doesn't fluff up. Or as soon as you make it, as soon as you mix the dough, you got to get it into the oven real quick.
Before it rises.
And before it rises, and then that'll kill off all the enzymes, and it won't be able to rise anymore. And that gives you matzahs, flat, breaking matzahs. Now, this is a really interesting holiday because I know there's lots of different religious groups, and maybe they'll eat certain things that will remind them, harken back to certain times. They have special foods that they eat at different festivals and different times and all that. But I don't know of any other religion where they have to purge the opposite from their house.
Purge the opposite.
Yeah, like for example, let's say they have a holiday where let's say they have Easter eggs, right? So, you can have Easter eggs or bunny eggs or whatever it is that you have,
right.
But I don't know that you have to get rid of anything corresponding to that.
Do bunnies make eggs? Bunnies don't make eggs, I don't think. Anyway, I'm just confused. Keep going. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
Right.
When they, if you're eating a certain thing, you don't have to get rid of the opposite. So we're eating the matzahs, the flat matzahs, but on top of eating the flat matzahs, which I can see, you come to the table, you have a big meal, you eat the matzah, everyone remembers this is the bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in Egypt, it's a commemorative thing and all that.
Right.
But why the purging from our house? We have to get rid of every little crumb of the opposite of the leavened. So therefore that would mean you'd have to get rid of a box of Cheerios or your Kit Kat bars, or certainly a loaf of box of Entenmann's. All those are product placements, by the way. We've been paid.
We do get paid for that.
We've been paid for all those to mention.
I was supposed to hold them up. I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah, guys.
My bad. You keep going. Sorry.
This is where we're making our money. It's in the product. It's all in the product placement.
Always is. Always is.
That's where all the money is in this show. Anyway, so you got to get rid of all that stuff because that is regular old dough that leavened. Why do we have to get rid of it? I understand eating the matzahs because the matzahs is the story of the Exodus of Egypt. When we sit down at the table, it's called the Seder, and we read the story, and the story says that, first of all, we start off, this is the bread of affliction, poor man's bread that we ate when we were in Egypt, and then later on it says they had to run out of Egypt in a big hurry. They took the dough with them, and it didn't have time to rise, so they wrapped it up, which means that they didn't allow it to rise. They wrapped it up, and later on they baked it, and since it was flat, they baked it as flat cakes, so we eat matzahs. I get that. Again, why are we getting rid of all of the chometz? So this is where we have this really interesting situation. Right now, we're actually already observing Passover. In homes all over the Jewish world, we're observing Passover because we are cleaning our houses and we're getting rid of things. I opened up a suitcase just the other day. I was putting some stuff away, and I went in the pocket. I was feeling the pocket and found those Kit Kat bars, right? Now, that's the type of thing that when you're looking for Passover, you have to get that out of there. What would be the big deal if the Kit Kat bar just stayed in the pocket of the suitcase? So what, right? What's the big deal?
Why?
So, first of all, let's understand chometz versus matzah. And then we'll understand why you have to go to get rid of it. Chometz and matzah, there's a cutoff point. Up until 18 minutes, when you mix the flour and the water together, up until 18 minutes, the dough is not leavened.
Right.
At 18 minutes, the dough is leavened, and once it's leavened, there's nothing you can do about it. You can bake it, you get bread, but you can't do anything about it. Before 18 minutes, you can pop it in the oven, and it'll never leaven. You can, intervene, interdict it. But once it gets to 18 minutes, that's it. So really, the difference between chometz and matzah is chometz is you just let it go, and you gave it time to do its thing. Matzah is you stayed on top of it, you were in a hurry, you kept your hands on to the matzah, you were like rolling it or working it, and as soon as you were done, you put it in the oven and baked it up. Chometz is you just let it go. You let it rise. And that's a really, really important lesson in our lives. Because when they got When they got out of Egypt, life was just going along the way it was. And then God said to them, yeah, and I want you to eat your meal. And then God had been doing the 10 plagues for a year by then. They had been slaves for years and years and years and years. And, everyone always expects things are going to happen over time. Like, for example, I was visiting a fellow in the hospital. He, one day, wasn't looking good. He went to the doctor. Doctor said, that doesn't look good. And sent for some tests. And this man is very, very, very sick.
No, that's not good.
Bad situation. And he's sitting there going like, I was just healthy yesterday. What happened? Like, I'm just, didn't do anything. We expect that if something's going to come along, it's going to, develop, take its time, I can react to it, I'll see it coming. And all of this, the whole idea of the Exodus of Egypt is things happen just like that, in a snap.
Wow.
In a snap. And we have to live our life and realize that things happen and things can change in a snap. This is why, when we look at the news, we don't get so uptight because we realize that however grim the situation looks, it can change in an instant. Things can just change around entirely in an instant. Everyone's living their life one way, and a second later, everything can be changed. We don't like that. Makes us very uncomfortable.
Right.
We like everything to be very predictable. We like to be in control of the situation. We like to know what's happening. We buy insurance for everything. And just bought an airline ticket. You can't buy an airline ticket without insuring the airline ticket.
And you have is there a chometz insurance?
Yeah.
Just in case?
Just in case everything turns out. No.
No, it's not.
That's the bottom line. No.
There's not.
No, there is no insurance. You have to just stay on it all the time and be aware. And be aware that life can change in an instant. And that's what happened to the Jews. 1 minute they were there in Egypt, they were slaves, and a minute later they were walking out of there, they were free men. Life can turn over in an instant. That's why at the meal, God had them eat. He told them, eat with your shoes on and your belt on and your walking stick handy, because in an instant you're going to be out of there. And even then, when they ran out of there, they had to take the dough with them, because even though they had been prepared for it for an entire year with all the plagues and everything that was going on, they still weren't ready. Because we're not ready. Because I couldn't imagine such a thing would happen. Who could imagine it would happen? And that's how we're supposed to live, not imagining the unimaginable, but expecting that anything could happen.
Jews are good at that.
Right. And that's why with Jews, not only eat the matzah, but we need to purge the chometz, because inside of each and every one of us, there lies that very strong sense of wanting to hold on, to be in control, to, I know what's coming up, I can plan ahead, and so on and so forth. So we have this mitzvah of getting rid of the chometz. And for a week, we get rid of the chometz, and for a week we go on a matzah diet. And the week or two leading up to Passover are almost as important as Passover itself.
Because we're getting rid of
We're
them.
getting rid of. And when you get rid of, so what do you do? When you look around, so I'm looking around, I'm taking this suitcase to the closet, and I notice, I hear something rattling around there. Stick my hand in the pocket. There's the Kit Kat bars. Oh, look at that. What that tells me is things are rattling around. They're rattling around inside of you.
Right.
You know, once you think you got yourself fixed up, go a layer deeper. You'll see that under there's still something rattling around. And we, you know, so we pay like lip service, we go to the Seder, and we have our party and all that type of stuff, and everyone talks about this stuff. But the way to really lay the groundwork and have the Seder experience is to spend the days leading up to getting rid of, throwing out, purging. All those are important things. You look through your pantry, see what here is leaven, and get it out of there. That itself is a very positive experience, which makes your Seder experience so much more powerful.
It sounds like that you're giving a deeper meaning to Chometz than I think you're letting on here. It sounds like it's not just the fact that we're not prepared, we're not ready. Is there something deeper to Chometz? Does it represent something bad in us? Does it represent something not good?
Yes, so Chometz is this idea of not being on top of things. Not trying to, not staying awake, not staying focused, just letting it go, just, letting ourselves go. How come it is everybody loses weight all weekend long and they put it back on every weekend?
I mean, every week long they lose, and
they lose during the week, all week long they lose weight,
right.
And then every weekend they put it back on.
Oh, why is that?
Why is that?
We're just not winning.
Because people are kicking back on the weekend and they take it easy. Now, why don't people stay on focus? Because during the week, I have my schedule and I have my layout and my diet and all that. But on the weekend, it's not structured, and we fall apart. Every weekend, everybody falls apart, right? It's so difficult to stay structured even through the weekend. Now, of course, the people that can stay structured through the weekend, they're the ones that peel off the weight. They're the ones that achieve their goals. They're the ones that, they keep the stuff out of the house so that when they want to go binge eating, that they've been able to be under control all week long, but then on come Saturday, they just fall apart and lose their self-control because they're not structured. So all of those things is when we lose it, that's when we become Chometz. Chometz is that idea, just letting go, losing it.
So is that why us Jews are such intense people? We worry about everything so much. Ever see the Larry David episode when Larry David finds out he thinks he's adopted and finds out that it was Christian, his real parents are Christian. Right after that, he's not afraid to fly anymore. He's not worrying about anything. He wears those socks that go up past his knees and everything. He's just so relaxed. And of course, he finds out he really wasn't. And then he goes back to being intense and freaking out Larry David. Is that what this is all about?
I didn't realize that. He probably put like mayonnaise on his
right. He put mayonnaise on his thing, and all of a sudden he wasn't worried about anything anymore. But then he found out he was Jewish again, and it went right back to worry.
Right. Oh no. Yeah.
So is that the problem? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah. Well, maybe. Now I have to find out who Larry David is, but I'm sure that when I find out, I will appreciate it.
He wrote Seinfeld. He was the guy.
Okay.
He had his own show as well.
Uh-huh. So, it's the idea of focus and intensity. Now, I'm not talking about driving yourself crazy, but the idea is 1 week a year. The Torah says you can't eat any of this chametz. What does it do? It focuses us. All of a sudden, it's like, once upon a time, all year long, I've got a cookie. A cookie is a cookie. Okay? This week, a cookie is chametz.
Wow.
The same cookie becomes chametz. And what that does is, at least at one period of time, every year, you have to put on different glasses and see that same cookie is not cookie now. It represents something. It's got this big, deep consequence that it represents something that's inside of me. It represents a character trait. It represents a nature. It represents an attitude towards life. And that's why it's a beautiful thing, because it opens us up to seeing life differently. The Passover Seder, if it's preceded by a purging of chametz, is a very, very deeply consequential event. But if it's not preceded by purging chametz, it knocks out a lot of the impact, is knocked out from under it, because the purging of the Chometz opens our eyes to look at things differently. Into that new look at things comes along the message of the Seder, which is very impactful, which is this whole idea about how God steps into your life and he can make changes and things can turn over in a moment, and how we need to be thankful and have gratitude for our history. All that's wonderful stuff. But if it's not preceded by the purging of the Chometz, it doesn't have the same power. The impact of the message is lost.
Wow. See, that's pretty intense. I mean, like we are. That's pretty intense. So the bottom line, without us feeling the fact that, is it a control thing? Is it more of a feeling the fact that maybe we need to be more in control because we have all this Chometz? I mean, we have it all around. Is that our goal here, to get more in control or get?
So look, whenever you're trying to present an idea, so let's say it's a new idea. Okay. Someone wants to present a whole new way of looking at things. You have your old way of looking at things, and there's a new way of looking at things. So what will happen is your old way of looking at things is going to give you a hard time looking at things the new way. Right? Because it's going to keep intriguing. Yeah, but what about? But yeah, but what? But always but. So sometimes they talk about when someone presents a new idea. Let's say you sit down, you have a meeting, the staff meets, someone's got a new idea. Everyone's got 50 reasons why it's not a good idea. So I've been at meetings where they say, what we're going to do now is green light thinking. Green light only thinking. We can do red light thinking later on. But right now, green light. Why could this work? What would be the benefits of this? How would it work? Right. Because we are always so stuck in the old way. When we clear out our house, we get rid of the Chometz, and we move all that stuff out, we create a space, an empty environment into which steps the matzah, and then we can have this whole Seder, and we can talk about our history, we can talk about what happened and the miracles that were done for us, and therefore what's our identity and where are we supposed to go and what are we supposed to do, how are we supposed to communicate our special heritage and legacy to our children, and all that type of stuff. That happens in the space that was cleared out by getting rid of the Cheerios.
Makes sense. So, well, here's a question then. So what are you eating for the next 2 weeks?
Well, very simply, the 5 grains, wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. Now, most people, I doubt, are eating too much rye in their house.
Rye bread?
Yeah, rye bread. Okay, maybe.
I don't really eat
a little bit of it. I don't even know if there's any rye in it, right? Spelt.
Not sure what spelt is. So
unless you're on some special diet, I don't think you're coming across too much spelt. Okay, oats. Okay, you got oatmeal.
Cheerios.
That's
about it.
I think it's about it.
Unless you have a horse.
Yeah, unless you own a horse, this could be problematic.
Right.
Okay, but otherwise, so what we're doing is we are finishing up all the oatmeal in the house.
So you are eating it, but you're dropping crumbs when you're eating that stuff now too.
Yeah. We're gonna, after as soon as we're done with all this stuff, we are cleaning a lot. And then we got some barley. Well, maybe put a little barley in your soup or something like that. Barley not too.
Maybe beer.
Mostly it's wheat, flour, and pastas and things made of wheat, pretzels and stuff like that. So what we're doing is we're going through the house. First, we take out the stuff off the shelves. We look for all the stuff that's got made of these grain products, and we're either eating it up or giving it away, or in many cases just throwing it out because it's just been sitting around for a long time. And we've already started buying less of it. So in other words, instead of buying the wheat, the Cheerios for breakfast, we start buying the Rice Krispies, right?
Which is going to bring me to another question in a minute. But
okay. So the Rice Krispies are not from one of those grains. So, that's we switching over to that. And then we start cleaning the house. What we do is we clean the house. We look around for all that. Once we've gotten rid of the main stuff, which is like, for example, you've got a bad trait in you. You are, let's say a sarcastic person. So, you're working on not being sarcastic. So every time, you would maybe say a sarcastic thing, like you've trained yourself, you're wearing a little ribbon around your finger, and you train yourself. But still, sometimes things happen and you can't help but like give an eye or so that's like second level. After you train first level is clear off the shelves, the obvious items.
Right.
Then you move the couch, you look down in the pillows, you see like all the places where someone may have left, look in the suitcase to see when you were traveling, did you stick a bag of pretzels when they gave you the pretzels on the plane? You know,
Right.
did you just, stick it? Look in the suit pocket that you were wearing. Maybe like you just stuck that bag of pretzels
Getting
in there.
deeper and deeper, and you're
Right,
searching
and you get
here,
deeper and
okay.
deeper, and you're looking, and while you're doing it, you're learning about digging into yourself and
Right.
clearing out. And the truth is, when you're really done and you've cleaned out the house and you really did it, it feels different. It feels different knowing that you've really gone through. I looked in the pockets, I've looked in all my corners, I know it's there. I cleaned out, and everyone's got that like closet or that drawer that's full of that heap, and you got it out of there, and it feels different. It almost feels liberating. Into that liberated, cleared out space is where we're going to sit down and talk about how God got us out of Egypt.
Now that makes sense, but I got a practical question for you.
Yeah.
It's a two-part question. You mentioned the Rice Krispies. Now I know we've had this discussion before with Ashkenazi Jews.
Yes.
Ashkenazi Jews don't eat chametz like all Jews,
That's
but
right.
you throw in a couple extra categories just to make it more difficult for
That's
everybody.
right. That's
you throw
right.
in the rice,
That's right.
and you throw in the corn.
Yeah, rice and corn.
And
And some other beans and stuff like that too. Yeah.
I'm okay with the beans, but the rice and the corn is a problem for me.
Yeah.
Now, I understand clearly now your explanation of chametz, but you don't consider rice and corn chametz, do you?
Don't consider them chametz, but I would not eat them on Passover. And the reason is because some centuries ago, the rabbis saw that items that can be made into flour, let's say there's corn flour, cornmeal, and it got some wheat flour mixed into it.
Right.
Who would know? Who would ever know? How would you know? And especially because the grain dealers used to have all the various different grains all mixed in one. And things that you can make flour out of, bean flour, rice flour,
These
corn
days,
flour.
there's probably most anything you can make flour out of. I don't know if
You
that's
can,
true.
a lot of things. So it's got to be certain like beans and legumes. It's got to be things that grow,
Right,
you know?
right.
So things that you can make flour out of. Now, they didn't do potatoes because at the time they didn't have potatoes around. So
But
they
you
never,
can probably make potato flour.
you could make potato flour out of it, but they never made a decree about it because it was not around. And nowadays we don't make any of these new decrees.
Right.
So they made a decree
Thank God
that
for
we
that.
don't eat those things just because they could be confused. So we don't eat them. We don't consider it to be chametz, but we don't eat them. And, we don't eat them because we're afraid that there could be some chametz in there. And we really, really go after the chametz, even small little amounts, even where we don't know it or don't taste it, but it could be there. Because, if you've got something that's a problem inside of you that you really need to get rid of, you really, really need to get rid of it. You can't just let it sort of hang around.
I'm with you, but I have a tough one because then the Sephardic Jews don't feel that way about. And it's. I like your explanation of chametz, and I just don't know how you bring in the rice into that.
So the Sephardic Jews, their rabbis didn't feel either that was a problem, or maybe they thought that was just something that people just wouldn't be able to live with, so maybe they didn't make the decree. The Ashkenazic rabbis did. That's our custom, and we're very customary type people, so we perpetuate our customs.
Okay, well, let's say you're an alcoholic. You're already taking away beer from you. Now you're saying you can't have corn vodka. You might be able to have potato vodka, definitely not rice wine or anything like that.
Right.
If you're Japanese, you're totally in trouble.
Right.
So
I think your alcoholic
he's got to into the potato vodka, maybe.
Yeah, I think the alcoholic analogy is spot on.
Okay.
I think it's actually because the
Okay,
truth
I
is,
tease you up.
the truth is we treat ourselves like alcoholics, and if a person is an alcoholic and say, but I've got it under control.
Right.
There's trouble brewing right there.
Trouble on that one right there.
And when a person says like, I'm gotten rid of everything and I'm not drinking anymore, but they're keeping that one little bottle stash. They got the stash somewhere just in case I really, really need a drink.
It'll be a bad day.
That's not going to be good.
Not good.
That's not going to be good. They really haven't gotten it going until they go to the stash, and everyone's got their stash somewhere.
Yeah.
And when they purge the stash, then you know that they're really, really on, and they really mean it. Up until then, of course they purge and all that, but they always keep in the stash just in case. And that's what we want to do. We want to purge because we want to try to see if I can achieve a new experience. People who take this approach will find their Judaism very, very fulfilling. But people who take it only on their terms and only try to work it into their life, which is basically what our society advises us nowadays. Work it into, do it on your terms, as much as you like, as much as you don't like. actually, I believe personally that they're not getting anything.
I can understand
It's
that.
like the guy who is going through the 12-step program, but hasn't really.
He made it to step 8 pretty well.
Yeah, he's not really what they call work in the program,
Oh,
because he's still hanging on to some of the old stuff.
Right.
Still drinking a little bit here and there, and that's where they count how long have you been free, alcohol free. So this guy's always like, he's always on day 1 or 2, because he's always having a little. So you're not getting anywhere like
It's with
that.
breakfast.
Not digging
Yeah.
inside, not
Right.
really coming out with the real junk that's going on in there. You got to really work the program.
Gotcha.
The people who work the program, they make it. Like if it ain't difficult, it's Woody Hayes said, if it ain't difficult, it ain't worth nothing. Although he probably said
Look
it
what
with like
happened to him.
15 expletives
Right,
involved
yeah.
in that too. But,
It didn't end well for him either. But yeah, so I get it. All right, so you people out there, if you were worried about what's going on in the world with the Jews, if you're worried about Iran, if you're worried about Vermont, just get rid of the Chometz.
Get rid of the Chometz.
That's all you need to do.
Get rid of the Chometz, and then you'll see it's a different world out there.
That's true.
And when you go pick up the paper and you read about Iran, it'll be a different Iran that you're reading about, because you'll realize that this stuff has happened before, and things can turn on a dime.
All right. Well, you heard it here first.
Or on a piece of matzah.
On a pizza matzah. No Chometz. Start getting rid of it now.
That's right.
See you next week.